Hey, 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 welcome into another episode of Halos in the Infield with your host, Todd Fox, and the other host of the show.
Fernando,
Coming to you live from where?
Dallas, Texas.
Uh-oh, Big D. Big D in the house.
Yeah. Texas Tech and all that stuff. Mr. Tex, I don't know. People here in Texas, like, for whatever godforsaken reason, like, love Texas. Like, Texas can do no wrong in their eyes. I don't know if it's just like a brainwash thing where they're like, this state is so bad, we're going to convince you that it's good.
Yeah, Texas people have a lot of pride in that state for sure. Real quick, let's settle debate real quick since we don't talk about it on here, but we talked about it at the minor league game at 66ers game. Real quick, since it's finally made it to Texas and both places are there, we got to settle the debate. Whataburger or In-N-Out?
You know, I'm not an In-N-Out guy, and you and I both agreed to this.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
I let the fans know because they weren't privy to our conversation.
Yeah, okay. So here's my opinion of In-N-Out. The burgers are fine. They're not great. They're fine. The fries, worst fries in like fast food.
Yes.
Well, besides maybe like Burger King, like the ones that like I'm not even putting in the category.
Mm-hmm.
But like I would take Wendy's and like McDonald's fries over In-N-Out fries. Here's the thing: In-N-Out fries. You know how they put them in like the potato crusher or whatever.
Yep.
At the very end, you just get those like little tiny French fries that taste like potato chips, and it's like I'm not down for that. Like you drink like one of their milkshakes, and like you get lightheaded. You're like about to pass out because the milkshake's so thick.
Oh yeah, it takes forever to suck it out. Pause.
Yeah, it takes a while to suck. Pause. It from the straw.
Yes, there you go.
You gotta pause for a little bit before you continue your sentence. Space bar. Continue the sentence.
But burger wise, let's take away the fries. I think I know where you stand on this one. Let's let them know because I'm with you on this one.
Oh man, I don't know. I'm gonna say it depends on the day.
Okay.
Because here's the thing, like if we're talking like maybe pure cheeseburgers, I really don't know. Here, like Whataburger gives you much more like customization. You can do a lot more. You could get Texas toast instead of the bread.
Mm-hmm.
But In-N-Out's like, oh well, we just sell cheeseburgers.
True.
So, but Whataburger also sells those really good spicy chicken sandwiches and sweet tea.
That's true. They do have more things on the menu. I just kind of lean a little bit towards In-N-Out because that mustard fried grilled onions type deal. So that's where I stand. But I do
and I don't like onions. I don't like cebolla.
We'll see. There you go.
For all my Spanish speakers, exactly. So, people from In-N-Out like, oh, well, animal style, oh, grilled onions. Like I said, I don't like onions. So maybe that's what my opinion is.
It could be, but that is like the endless debate between Californians and Texans for sure. Well, speaking of that, you're in Dallas. The Angels just came off a series with Houston. They finished up in Houston, and then also previous to that, they had a series in San Diego. We're going to go over both those series and preview the next series as the season winds down. We also just want to let you know, I'll let Fernando explain a little bit too, about the what happened with the 66ers event. We had that too last week. We went down there, me, Fernando, and Courtney. So take it away, man. What do we do and how do we accomplish it?
So I don't think that we'll do a super deep dive because I feel like that's probably an off-season episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was as successful as it could be. Mm-hmm. Todd went over to one of our sponsors and friends of the show, Zumo Sushi Burrito. Got 40 containers of sushi, and I think Todd said there was a couple sides in there. Mm-hmm. And he drove them over from Covina to San Manuel Stadium. So that was about like an hour drive.
Yeah, about an hour drive. Yeah.
There you go. And we went there. Todd went over the game. We all met there casually. Went on in. We sat right behind the bullpen. We ate our food for a little bit. I ate like a cookie that had too much chocolate in it. Todd had some kind of energy drink. Courtney got fries. It was a good time. We chatted it up, caught up a little bit. Went over. We delivered the food, and there you go. We forgot to take photos of the food. being delivered. So we had to message our contact, Juan, I believe his name was, and I was like, "Hey, bro, can you send me some photos? I don't want the fans to think we pocketed the
Yeah.
money."
And it was real nice to get the fan support too on the PayPal account on halosintheinfield.com. And it was always good to get any kind of helps out towards the page. But you guys really stepped up and helped us to donate to the players. Players were really thankful for everything. And they want us to come back, and we said we're going to be back next season and maybe do some more charity things for them as well, as they know they have it rough. But all in all, it was a good night. And, we had a good time there. So we just wanted to let you guys know to the ones that donated and also have been asking about it. And if you haven't seen the pictures, Fernando posted and everything else like that on the page. So let's get started. What do you want to hit first in that Padres series?
The first thing I want to bring up is Tuesday's 4-0 win. You want to know what I really liked about that win? So, it was like that meme where they're like, "Oh, they had us in the first half." Not gonna lie, the Angels were overmatched by the Padres. Mm-hmm. Blake Snell was throwing a no-hitter. Mm-hmm. It did not look good for the Angels, but they turned it around. Joe Adell turned it around, correct?
Yes, he did. I believe he hit that 2-out single with they had runners at second and third, and he drilled one right up the middle to make it 2-0, and that was the biggest hit of the game. And forgotten in that game, too, was that Packy Naughton, our boy, pitched 5 scoreless innings. So he matched Blake Snell, and then the bullpen did the rest.
Yeah, you know what I really liked about that game? All year we've been saying that this team seems kind of flat. They're not having fun. Mm-hmm. Did you see the clip of the Angels high-fiving each other?
Yeah.
Right as Raisel Iglesias were warming up in the bullpen?
Mm-hmm. That was
kind of like they'd already won the game.
Yeah, that was pretty trippy because my dad saw that and said, "Hey, wait, they still have a half inning to go." I'm like, I know, there must be doing some sort of pre-celebration, or it's part of Raisel coming out. I don't know, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. It was different. You know what I mean? It was super ballsy. Dude, how pissed off would you be if you're part of the other team? Here they are celebrating a win. We haven't even got a hit yet.
That is pretty ballsy. I've never seen that kind of celebration mid game at all. You know what I mean? I've seen some things where you kind of manager, maybe in the 2002 World Series when Dusty Baker took the ball from Ortiz and then gave it to him, hey, game ball, you got it, stuff like that. But I've never seen the whole celebration like that. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was funny, like you said. I mean, it was different. I liked it. It was just the boys having fun. Mm-hmm. I just, like you said, I've never seen it before. I mean, there's bat flips. There's a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
Man, talk about an FU.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to celebrate a win.
And you know what? That season series, too, with San Diego, it was pretty even back and forth. For the Angels,
I believe both teams, it was two game sets.
Yes.
And I believe once in each series, the opposite team got their cheeks clapped. And then the next day, it was the opposite.
Yeah. There was really no close, knock them out, drag them out game. But just the fact that they split them like that, it was pretty crazy. That game was pretty good, 4-0, in San Diego, big crowd. I think the Angels fans traveled down there. There was a lot of fans that came to our tailgate that went to that too, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, we were going to tag like crazy that whole series.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And again, we like for the fans to keep doing that. That makes you know that they're thinking about us during the game, and that's pretty cool that they're showing up and stuff like that. So we're going to definitely get a lot of that next year too. But like you said. So they won one, lost one in Anaheim. They started out this series winning the first game, was a 4-0. Game 2, what happened in game 2?
They lost.
Yeah,
they lost 5-8.
Oh yeah, 8-5. I just remember in that game it was 8-1. There was a really bad second inning, right? There was they walked a gang of players in that game.
Yeah, so they gave up 8 runs. Every run the Padres got was in that second inning, and that was just the inning that did not ever end. It just kept going. It kept dragging along. It was just really bad.
I believe they had 5 walks, if I'm not mistaken, in that inning, 4 of which walked in single runs. So that's pretty bad. But if you could take out two things in that game, and this is what we've been talking about all season, Fernando, is the fact that in that game, 8-1, most times the Angels go down like that. They're whimpering out. They're not showing up a fight, whatever like that. Number one that happened in that game is they shut the Padres down, like you said, no damage the rest of the game. And number two, they put up a fight. Suzuki knocked in a run or something like that, or a couple runs with a 2-run homer, and then Adele went deep with a 2-run homer, and they were in it 8-5 in the 8th inning. That's all we ask for as fans is if they push and give us a shot to win the game, or give us a shot to put a couple guys on base and maybe bring the tying run to the plate, even if we don't get nothing. That's what we're looking for as fans, because so much times this year, you've touched on it, I've touched on it, Courtney's touched on it, they just don't put up a fight.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they could have easily just, like you said, rolled over and whimpered out. Old Yeller could have already been behind the shed. But, they at least did give themselves an opportunity. And I don't know, man, Joe Adele is going to be a problem. Adele he's good. He's proving like, hey, guys, like you guys wrote me off last year. I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like all the Joe Adele haters are quiet. I don't know if you remember, like when we were talking, back in June, like, hey, is it time to call up Joe Adele? A lot of people were like, oh, he's not major league ready. He's not going to be major league ready. Let's trade him. He's a scrub. He's a loser. We don't need him.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard any Adele slander anymore. His defense is good. He's made good plays with his arm.
Mm-hmm.
He's having good at-bats. Is his batting average there yet? No, but I mean, keep in mind, this is still a young kid. I don't care if you're batting, 230. If you're having productive at-bats, challenging the pitcher, doing the things you have to do to at least feel like your at-bat had an impact in the game,
mm-hmm.
That's all that matters. And Brandon Marsh and Joe Adele are so far showing, like, hey, these guys can play here.
I agree, because going back to what you said in the off season too, we fielded a lot of questions on the other network about how
boo.
We won't mention the name, but the fact that the Angels, everyone was saying, let's trade Adele before the season starts. Let's get that starter we couldn't get in free agency. Like you said, all the way up until he was called up. Let's trade him. Give up on him.
Even when he was called up.
Yeah, they didn't want him. And yes, remember, you and I both said, watch, he's going to get his hits down. He's going to start walking, because he was so much more patient right off the bat. We saw that right away. He was patient, taking pitches, not striking out. And then all of a sudden he started getting hits, getting on bases, getting infield hits. It started progressing. And then all of a sudden he's hitting gappers, doubles, triples. Now he's hitting home runs. And it's all starting to come together, like you said. The batting average is going to be last to come up, but it is decent for this truly being his rookie year. So I'm excited, like you are, and I'm glad you brought up Marsh too. And then some of these guys are playing out the streak or at the season, but with fire, and that's all you want. You want this team to just, we're not going to make the playoffs. Let's give some teams, obviously, like you mentioned last week, that we're going to be playing down the stretch, are all contending. Let's give them some problems. Let's not be a pushover for them getting into the postseason.
Hey, we can ruin some postseasons here.
Yeah, we can. We absolutely can.
I mean, we can definitely make it hard for Oakland.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll be able to do much with Houston or even the White Sox, but we can definitely kill the Mariners off.
Yes, we can. We can actually put a stake through them if they don't do it to themselves. Because I don't know if you saw, they lost 2 of 3 to Arizona, so that hurt.
And dude, Arizona keeps beating a lot of good teams, yet they can't beat anyone else. Like they killed the Padres, they just killed the Mariners. It's just like, what are we doing here?
Yeah,
the Rockies have been doing that too.
Which makes absolutely no sense. They've rolled over for everyone else, but when they need to be pushovers for other teams, they're all
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let me ask you this real quick before we move on.
Okay.
So Joe Adele,
mm-hmm.
is he by default the starting right fielder going into next season, or do you think the Angels need to go out there and get another Juan Lagares or maybe resign a Lagares in case? Or do you think Adele, as of right now, assuming nothing bad happens, has the nod next year? Like, hey, this is your position. We're going to write it in pencil.
I think a couple things have to happen first. I think
Okay.
you have to move Upton. You can't have him the fourth outfielder making that much money. So somehow he has to get moved. And then I believe that you have to spend a lot of money on a shortstop to justify the fact of not adding another outfielder. And
Dan
then
Garcia said no.
well, I don't care what he says. but what I'm saying is I think if you do those two things, I think that gives you the option of saying, okay, do we Trout coming back injured or off the injury, missing all the year because he's not coming back this year. Do you move him to either left or right? And then because to me, if those two things happen, it just comes down to where you put Trout. And then I would keep Marsh in there, and I would keep Adele in there, and I'd say let them start from the first. I mean, if they have a great spring training, let them start. Unless you add another outfielder, which I don't think they necessarily have to, unless you bring back Fowler or someone as a fourth string catcher or a fourth string outfielder. Yeah, I literally would just leave it the way it is, man. I think youth wise right now, those two guys are on the up and up, and I would rather spend that money either on shortstop or pitching, like bullpen.
Here's my thing. My opinions change. I've been saying well, I think next year we're going to make the playoffs. This is not going to be a popular opinion, but bearing anything crazy, I don't think next year is going to be when we might sneak into the playoffs next year, but I don't think next year is going to be hey, that's the year. Mm-hmm. I think we're looking more at 2023 is going to be the year. I think we have about 3 to 4 more years of a good Trout. Mm-hmm. Where we're talking Trout being the best player in baseball. After that 4-year mark, maybe we're talking about a good Trout, but not the best version of Trout.
I agree.
So I think 2023 and 2024 are really the 2 years that we're going to eye.
Okay.
So maybe that means, maybe we go after a pitcher this year, but instead of looking in the free agency market, we look more at the trade market.
That could happen.
I don't mind. Yeah. I don't mind getting, somebody who's going to be good next year, but is going to be really good the year afterward because, everyone keeps talking about we need to sign pitching this offseason. And I agree as far as the bullpen, we need to sign pitching because there's a lot of options. But as far as starters, there's not a lot of good young options that we can build around.
Yeah. Besides what we got on the talent right now, my thing is a lot is going to be done or is going to be due to what happens in the offseason with the collective bargaining agreement. If somehow, some way they could pass that hard cap, do you realize the amount of players that are going to be getting cut? Be cap casualties, and or they'll have to be traded, and a team like the Dodgers will have to get what they can get for them. So they're going to have multiple guys they're going to have to get rid of. The Angels will have, if they can use that salary cap and get rid of Upton, all of a sudden they're a team that can inherit some of these contracts. Whereas before,
I just don't know. The Upton contract is going to be so hard to get rid of. Like I said, it's not impossible. We've been talking about this forever, but it's going to be hard.
Well, yeah, because you're going to have to depend on what you said. You were the first one to bring up Griffin Canning, and I thought that was a brilliant idea. If his back is totally healthy and they didn't mess it up, the training staff, and he's a good piece, like you said. He's a wild card. He could be a guy that's could be better than Andrew Heaney if someone gets to him and works with him and gets inside that head, because I think he does have a mentality like an Andrew Heaney. But if you can get him focused, he could be really good. And so with the other pitchers emerging, he's not necessarily a guy we need anymore. And then maybe a Jaime Bieri could throw him in, and maybe you can unload that contract. But I think you're right. It would take 2 pitchers to get rid of Upton.
Yeah, and people keep saying oh well, no one's gonna want Canning. No one's gonna want Canning. And I think people undervalue Canning. Mm-hmm. He's young. He's very controllable. He's still very cheap. Mm-hmm. Honestly, if we're talking about every team in baseball, I think over 20 teams would want Canning. Mm-hmm. I mean, if look, here's the thing. If there was let's just say Griffin Canning was on the Mets, and we found out that, Griffin Canning was going to be available this offseason for cheap, or, just to take a bad contract. Well, maybe that's a bad example because the Mets have a lot of money. They wouldn't be picking up a bad contract, but the Pirates or the Diamondbacks, we'd be like, man, we need to get that guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's young. We can maybe teach him something here. Like every team's is gonna think the same thing.
A team to me that would be a perfect fit for him is Miami, because they tend to take pitchers on, take flyers on pitchers, and their pitching staffs are usually always good. We either they develop bullpen arms or they develop starters, and they've got quite a few starters that they brought in right now. So I think a team like that, like you said, or a team like Colorado, something like that, would take a flyer on him. Because remember, they took Tyler Chatwood from us a few years back. Why not a Griffin Canning too? And they controlled Chatwood for a while as well, and he did pretty decent for him. So, yeah, that's a huge. And then that's the other thing. If they move to a universal DH, maybe a guy like Upton's stock rises. Maybe instead of having him out in the outfield being a liability, maybe he can go to a National League team that needs a DH.
And a lot of them probably will.
Yeah. So that's another thing. If the cards fall right, maybe we can get what we want. But it's a stretch. It's a stretch, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Upton would be a more beneficial DH. His defense isn't quite there.
No, and he's got a noodle arm, unfortunately. Sometimes he can make some plays out there, and then other times he looks kind of lazy, and then he doesn't fire the ball back in time. So yeah, you're basically, if you're getting a single to left field at Anaheim Stadium or any stadium where Upton's playing, you're going to score from second. He hasn't thrown too many guys out. So
yeah.
So all right. So moving on from that Padres series, they went to then Houston for a 3-game set versus a team going into the series. They have been combined in the last 30 games, 4-26 in Houston. So that's over 3 years worth of sucking against a very good baseball team. How did it start?
Started off with a loss, 5-10. So it was a fairly lopsided game, and it wasn't even like a 5-10 where it's competitive. It was a pretty lopsided 5-10. Angels just seemed out of it the whole time. It was unfortunate because Shohei Ohtani, he got a home run, right?
Yes.
So always rough when that happens. And then speaking of rough, he also got roughed up on the mound.
Yeah. We were hoping he'd get his double-digit win, but it was not to be that game one. Thoughts real quick on Ohtani. Now today, as of today, Monday, September 13th, Vlad Guerrero Jr. has now passed him with home run number 45 for Toronto. Toronto's just in fuego right now. You had a guy who had a huge lead on him, which is Shohei Ohtani. And again, me and you both called it. We were very, very leery of him being in that all-star home run derby. And I don't necessarily think it was his swing. Probably if the pitches were as good as the Mets pitcher was, maybe that doesn't mess up his swing. But his swing looked jacked up from the guy who's pitching to him. Man, he has not been the same. And now it's like, will he finish with 50? Because we all had him penciled in before at 60. Will he finish 50? Do you think so or no?
He's currently as 44?
44, yes.
I don't know. He's not having very many good at-bats, and I think it's getting worse and harder for him because as we progress into the season, he's becoming more and more the only batter we have. David Fletcher's cooling off. Jared Walsh, also hasn't been all that great since the All-Star break. He flared up for a little bit for about a week there and then kind of fizzled again. But, it's literally just Shohei Ohtani. Sure, you have Brandon Marsh and Joe Adele, but none of those guys are producing homers either.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They are now – there's 19 games left. So 19 games to get 6 home runs, I just don't know because his at-bats aren't consistent. Like you said, he's not getting pitched to like he was before, like you said, and his swing isn't there. And he's not going to left field. I think when he's able to hit to all fields, he's opening up his swing. He's not worried about a home run. The home runs come when they come. Now it seems like he's taking way too many rips again at trying to hit balls out. It reminds me of last year when his helmet kept flying off because he's swinging so violent. I think he's gotten back into that. And again, it's not like Paul Sorrento's jumping off his ass to try to adjust his swing. Paul Sorrento's still eating potato chips on the dugout bench. So,
hey, he has to catch that Charmander.
Oh no, that's Jeremy Reed. Yeah, Jerry Reed has to catch it.
My fault.
He's the one that's
My
playing
bad.
Pokemon Go. He's the only one
Okay.
still on the server still playing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I gotta ask this: are you a little more worried about Ohtani not winning MVP, like where we currently sit right now?
Yes, because of two reasons, and that's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. being one, and the Blue Jays all of a sudden in that wild card. I mean, I think they might have gotten the spot tonight, so like or tied or whatever. But if they make the postseason, and Guerrero is a big reason for him for them making the postseason, despite everything that Ohtani has done, because he gets that MVP with his pitching as well. Cy Young, some people said, well, they don't take in contention his home run hitting, but he gets that MVP because of his pitching and hitting, and the fact that now, yeah, you can justify still giving it to him, but he is being threatened beyond belief right now by Vlad Guerrero Jr. Because if Vlad Guerrero is one of the main reasons those young Blue Jays get into the postseason, I don't see how you can't give it to Vlad Guerrero.
Yeah, the Blue Jays just stepped into the top spot, the
Oh,
number one wild card seed.
wow. Okay. We'll see. That changes things, you know?
Yeah, New York's like half a game out or something.
Wow. That's crazy.
And then, not to mention the fact that Otani's now been roughed up twice on the mound. He's got like a 3.36 ERA, and he's only got 9 wins. I understand, 9 wins is horrible, but if we're talking about a pitcher who's got like 10 wins, he's got an ERA closer to the bottom of the threes. Instead of like, if we're running up here, he'd be closer to 4 for running. Yeah. No, he'd be closer to 3.5, sorry, for running up. So that's kind of where the worry comes now, where, Ohtani had this locked up a week and a half ago. All of a sudden, we're like, maybe it's not as close now as we thought.
Yeah, I agree. Had he continued his streak from June into July, we'd be talking about Ohtani already won it in the beginning of September or late August. We'd be talking about, hey, is he going to hit 60, 65? Is he going to get 13, 14 wins? But it's all about the team too. And you said if he's not seeing pitches because there's no one really around him, that's or the guys around him aren't picking up the slack. Yeah, it's going to be a team thing with him there too. But I totally get you, man. I think it's a good point. I think Vlad Guerrero's now in the driver's seat. I think it's that close. If he just keeps continuing what he's doing, and they get that top spot of the wild card when they were below us at one point there in August. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But, hopefully Ohtani can maybe pick it up a little bit. I mean, if he can get that 10th win, he can at least get a little closer to that 50 number.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
All right. And then since you brought up Jared Walsh, what do you see wrong with his swing?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think it's just a mixture. I don't know if maybe he just didn't come back fully healthy or what, but he just kind of he hasn't been the same over the last, second half of the season, really.
Mm-hmm. That's true. I've been seeing.
It doesn't look like he's pressing, but he is pulling the ball a lot.
That's just what I was going to say. He just reminds me a lot of Cole Calhoun. He's not going the other way at all. And I think that's what kills averages, especially with the shift, man. I mean, the shift just takes away so much. But yeah, that's okay. So that was game 1 in Houston. What happened in game 2?
We won. Jose Suarez had a really good performance. I think Jose Suarez is really trying to prove that he deserves a really good consideration going into next season to be a part of the bullpen or be part of the rotation.
Mm-hmm.
He looked good.
Fast Times said that win locked him in for next year. Do you agree with that? Do you think he's? I know you said consideration, but do you think he's a lock if there's really no real big names added?
Well, let's see. He's 7-7 with 3.59 ERA. I want to see just a little bit more. I just want to see him continue to prove that, hey, he only pitched 5.2 innings.
Okay, that's fair.
So I want to see you consistently get past the 6 inning mark. For me, that's kind of always been the benchmark for my pitchers. I want my starters to give me 6 solid innings, quality starts, almost as often as possible.
Sandy was doing that before he went down. You think he's locked in for next year?
I think a healthy Sandoval is definitely a lock-in for next year.
Cool. And it's, it feels really good to say that, as of right now, or even if we get Cobb back, which I wouldn't mind either, but right now we got two guys locked in and another guy potentially locked in, Suarez too. So that's not bad, and adding an ace to go along with that, and you have a battle towards the bottom with guys like Detmers, Packy, and a few others fighting for that fifth spot. We got a nice little log jam right there. It's going to be good to have.
Yeah, I don't think the Angels need to go out because I don't know if there's certainly not an ace in the free agent market. There's no Garrett Cole, there's no Trevor Bauer. So I don't think they need to go out there and overspend on a free agent. If you can get Scherzer here on a great deal, well then yes, of course. But besides that, if you whiff on Scherzer, he stays with the Dodgers or whatever is going to happen with him. I think you need to go out there and trade for a guy who could be an ace. Maybe get Kyle Hendricks from the Cubs. Maybe get Luis Castillo from the Reds, Sonny Gray, one of those kind of guys.
And there's a couple of pitchers I know. We got Biebs over in Cleveland.
Yep.
Detroit, I know, has a starter or two that I wouldn't mind setting up that have ace potential. I think those would go really good. I mean, to have a young staff like we already do, and then you add it, like you said, instead of getting a crafty veteran like at 37, 38, and you could seal in a starter at 26, 27, which is an ace or a potential ace. I think that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't always just look for like, oh, hey, let's go out there and get the biggest name free agent. It's kind of what got us into this mess.
Yes.
We talked about that with the urinating tree interview. Sometimes you need to go out there and make the best calculated move. I feel like a lot of the times the Angels will whiff on a big free agent like Garrett Cole, like Trevor Bauer, and then they go out there and like, all right, cool, we're gonna get Julio Teheran, or we're gonna get Jose Quintana. We need to stop trying to go after a lot of these guys. If you're going after Jose Quintana because you've already got like a Scherzer and you already got whoever else, and Quintana's kind of like, hey, we're gonna give him a shot and a look. Okay, that's a different situation. But when Jose Quintana is meant to be a stopgap guy in the rotation for the year, that's the moves that have not panned out for the Angels in the last half decade.
I agree. If you're depending on those guys to be anchors for your rotation, like you said, it's no good. Like, say for instance, we picked up Quintana, a Trevor Cahill, and we're like, hey, we're going to use these guys for long relief, whether we're up big or we're down big. I'm like, hey, perfect. Let's do it. I think those are the perfect guys for it.
I don't know. I still got PTSD. I'm old.
But if they were getting one of them and said, okay, they're both going to try for that fifth spot, I'd still be okay with it. But anything above 5 with those dumpster diving type pitchers like we've seen, like you mentioned the last few years, no. Anything above that just means we're going to have a bad year.
Yeah. You're only as strong as your weakest link. I say that all the time. If we're looking at guys like Detmers, Suarez, hell, even Canning as your weakest link, well, then we're having a different discussion. If you're looking at any of those three guys to be, hey, this is our number 3 in the rotation, as of right now, I'm a little hesitant.
I agree.
I could see maybe Patrick Sandoval being a 3, or I'd prefer him to be more of a 4.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, man. I feel better going into next season with the guys that we have right now, but I don't want any of those guys to be locks in the rotation. I want those guys to truly be battling because we went out there and got 2 more consistent pieces. And like you said, I might actually consider Cobb to be one of those pieces as long as he's not the piece.
I agree. Because I'm with you. I like Sandy. He could be a 3, but to this young in his career, I think a 4, like you said, would be perfect. And if you're able to throw Cobb in there as a 3, Ohtani a 2, and like you said, add another star ace, that's a hell of a rotation already. With all that back end that you could pick and choose from to spot start or try to take that spot if they get hot.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that the sexy thing to do is go out there and, sign all these big names. But at the end of the day, a good, solid rotation is built from the farm system.
Mm-hmm.
We see it consistently. And good teams are built from the farm system.
Mm-hmm.
I think the old days of the Yankees buying championships and us trying to have the mentality to win games is kind of dead. It's not working like it used to. Nowadays, a lot of these, teams build from within. The Astros did it. The Athletics constantly do it. A lot of we constantly see it because of our division. Except with the exception of maybe the Rangers. I
Yeah,
mean, even the Mariners are slowly starting to do it.
yeah, and then you got other teams like Milwaukee. It's a built from within team, like you said. Cardinals are always
Yeah,
built from within.
yeah. The Cubs for a while were there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the kind of thing that you've been talking about since I met you, about how, man, we wish we would have did the rebuild years ago and did it from within, because then we can tolerate a losing season here, a losing season there. But typically, if you do it right, the max would be 3 to 4 years on a complete tear down rebuild, get back into postseason contention type deal. And they've never done that. They've just stopgap, 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 and that's why
It's the guy behind you.
Yeah, it is. He's been looking at me kind of weird this entire time, but still, yeah.
He's about to pose for the photo at the grave.
Dude, that was an awesome meme. That got so many likes right away.
I don't know. I got called a fake fan a couple times.
Oh, jeez.
That was on Calling All Angels.
Really?
They were like, "Oh, fake fan, fake fan."
Dude, Joe was the one that wanted you to post on there. He sent me a message. He's like, dude, you got to put that on there. So whatever. But hey, it's a lot of honks. You know how it is, man. We're trying to weed them out. We're trying to weed those people out.
Hey, they've been sneaking more and more onto the page. If you look on our Instagram, we're getting a couple of honks here and there.
We are. You gotta make a post that says no honk zone.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So they were able to eke out that win. Suarez gets his 7th victory. So he goes to 500. Not bad for a guy who entered the rotation midway through. So that, pretty good victory there. And that would take us to the finale, which was the other day. Oh, wait. Well, I want to touch on real quick. In that game, I know Raciel came in, looked very, very hittable. He's looked dominant against any other team, but they brought out a stat that against Houston this year, before he got that save, he was 0-2 with only 1 save and a 7.98 ERA. And he didn't look that great, and he got lucky that I think it was Correa fouled off a pitch, and Stassi caught it, to end the game.
Territory, yep.
Yeah, but they had a 4-2 lead, and Houston had the second and third right before that. So not your best outing for Raciel, which has been lights out.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they can't all be good outings, and it's obviously concerning that he's been struggling against Houston. But who on the Angels hasn't been struggling against Houston?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So
after that, they got their record to 5-27 in the last 32 against Houston. So that led us up to the finale against Houston.
That led us to 5-28 against Houston.
There you go. So I take it we didn't win that game.
We did not. We lost 1-3.
And who got the start in that one? I forgot who started that game.
It was Berea.
Not a bad start again. He's had a couple stinkers, but he's had a few games where he's hung in there and just maybe served up a home run, 2 runs, 3 runs max, and he's got tagged with a loss.
Yeah, he got an earned run on this one. He only pitched for about 4 innings, but he did strike out 6. He walked 4. That was kind of the Achilles heel there. Okay. Yeah, the 4 walks. And then Quijada came in and gave him 2 runs, and that was the scoring for the Astros.
And the Angels, again, went pretty quiet in that game, right?
Yeah, 4 hits. Not going to win a lot of games with only 4 hits.
That is, it's been the same old song and dance. How you talked about the team being rah-rah in San Diego. They played good here, or in one of the games in Houston, and then just it just reverts. It keeps reverting back to just bad play, bad at bats, non-situational hitting type deals, and then the team just looks again terrible. I think the only run they got in that game was from what was it, the other outfielder?
Lagares?
Yeah, there you go, Lagares. He's been hitting home runs lately, and he had another one there in Minute Maid.
Yeah, made it Juan.
Mm-hmm. We're trying to get him on the page, too. I messaged him again, too, so you never know. It's a shot in the dark. Maybe after the season he'll come on or something, but it's just frustrating. You try to hang in there with this team and watch every time. You just want them to give you something, and when they're not doing situational things, you just wonder what is wrong in the culture in the clubhouse at times.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to have any kind of culture when you have guys constantly coming in and out because of injuries. You have an inconsistent coaching staff because guys got fired before the season started.
Mm-hmm.
You have a mix of guys who were here pre-Perry. So it's just I really don't know what the case is. I mean, I honestly, I think the unfortunate part is I don't think there's a quick fix. I think the Angels are definitely in a position where they're going to be struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even next year if they really don't try to sit down and figure out what the problem is. I think Artie Moreno needs to sit down and really, kind of have a gut check here and think like, hey, what's going wrong?
Got you. Here's one other question I have for you. It's kind of off topic, but I want to know how good you are in gambling, or how much you would put on this. The record for injuries in a season was 57 for the Seattle Mariners on the Major League Ball Club, and that's how many hit the IL for them in 1987. The Angels, as we stand right now, have just hit 53. Can they come up with 5 more injuries in the next 19 games to break the all-time record for that training staff?
Woo! I mean, I hope not. Because, I mean, hey, that's a bad record to have. But, hey, I mean, maybe if they do, Artie can be like, record-breaking season. We'll even sell the T-shirts.
Maybe
we'll get Randy on it.
Maybe he'll put a patch on their hat. 2021.
There you go, Hat Club.
There you go.
Yo, I got the limited edition infirmary patch. Ooh, that's fresh, bro. Where'd you get that? I got it at Hat Club.
The Hat Brims. What was that? Brims something or other. They have a lot of those shows on there.
I don't know. Rather, Chris subscribes to like 1,000 hat pages. So every time I go on Instagram, I'm bombarded with oh, Brim Girl's going live, Brim Jody's going live, Brim Thomas, and I'm like, oh my god.
They just talk about what's crazy. Let's talk about like a hat in a different color, like a Rockies hat in teal green, but it has the Rockies 95 commemorative thing. They're all, oh man, you could be the first one to bid on this hat. It starts at $60. I'm like, what the?
Yeah, I'm all $60.
Dude, they got some hats on there that sell for like $150, $200. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Well, hey, I mean, it's in the eyes of the collector, right? I mean, I have, an Albert Pujols signed baseball helmet. Some people would be like, that's lame. But a collector would be like, oh, that's sick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I think you look past you as a fan look past with that particular item, with what he did in Anaheim. You're thinking more Cardinals. You're thinking more Hall of Fame, more collectible. Yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, I see my Pujols helmet. It's still one of my favorite things in my collection, not because we had good memories of him as an Angel, but because, hey, I mean, regardless, that's still Albert Pujols. I know we hate him, but like you said, when he retires, I'm not going to really remember Pujols as an Angel. I remember, obviously, pain and the horrible situation that came out of that. But obviously, we're going to remember him as a Cardinal.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think of a player in their best positive light.
I'll be thinking about those times he tortured the Astros or he tortured the Rangers in the World Series. I'm not going to be thinking of Pujols Angels.
Torturing us.
Yeah. I don't want to think of him doing that. Mr. Double Play.
Yeah, right. I was playing MLB The Show, the new one, with my boss, and I had to use Albert Pujols because it didn't update him. I don't know why it was offline or whatever, so I used offline rosters. And I was like, God, I forgot he was on the Angels. God, I forgot how bad he was. How did I used to hit home runs with this guy?
Dude, I'm telling you, even on the video game, I think it was 2020 I played MLB The Show. And the last one I played, or 21, that dude, I couldn't hit the ball out of the infield sometimes. He was always hitting grounders. So, and I'm like, well, he's going to be thrown out.
Yeah, they gave him like a 30-something power.
Yeah.
What? 0 speed for years.
Yep. Plantar fasciitis got him. But all right, so right now as it sits, the Angels are 70-73. You got 19 games remaining in the season. 143 games in. What do you think they'll finish Do you think they're going to finish 500, or what do you got?
I don't know, man. It's going to be really hard with the guys that they have. Yeah, well, with the teams that they have to deal with over the next, 2.5, 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, after tomorrow's game, or at the time this is released, it'll be today's game with the White Sox. They've announced they have Packy for that game, but I mean, after that, I don't think they have a starter for Wednesday or Thursday. They don't. No, they don't. I'm looking right now. The White Sox haven't even announced any starters yet.
And they've locked up that division, right? That division's over with. I think the White Sox are fighting for best record. Is that the only thing they have to play for? Or?
Well, I don't think as of right now, the Giants are the only team that's locked up a spot officially in the playoffs.
Okay.
The White Sox, the second place is Cleveland, and they are 12 games out.
Yeah, that's all.
Man, sometimes I wish the Angels were in that candy-ass division.
Yeah, or the National League East, one or two.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the Central Shore, they have the White Sox have 82 wins, but after that, you have Cleveland at 69, Detroit at 68, Kansas City at 65, and Minnesota at 63. That's a really bad division.
That's a mediocre division, man, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, when your second team hasn't even broke 70 wins.
Yeah, and we're sitting there at 70 in fourth place.
Exactly. You got Seattle and Oakland at 77, and then Houston at 84. I mean, look at the East. They have 4 teams with 80 wins. Oh, yeah, and by the way, Tampa Bay's almost at 90 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and by the way, they have Baltimore.
Yeah. Yeah, did you see that game? Speaking of which, Baltimore had a no-hitter on Toronto going into the 7th inning. I think they were up like 2-0, and they wound up losing to Toronto 10-2. They gave up 10 runs in the 7th.
So bad.
Yeah,
so bad. Dude, what's happening to San Diego? They're getting creamed again. 4 straight losses.
4 straight losses. They're tied with Cincinnati, and all of a sudden, look at now, St. Louis is a half game out of that wild card spot.
They're tied.
Yeah, that's incredible. They've come out of nowhere.
Not to mention, Philadelphia, who's 2.5 games out. So I mean, they're still breathing down their necks. I mean, that's not that far.
There's a lot of baseball to be played in some of these divisions. Unfortunately, not with us. We're not, like you said, we can only affect a couple teams down the stretch.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we're in this position yet again. But we keep saying it. Hopefully next year is going to be the year. But there needs to definitely be a gut check. There needs to definitely be hey, we're changing the narrative this year. There needs to be a slight change of culture. There needs to be some key moves made. And the Angels don't need to go out there and try to win every offseason. They need to go out there and have the best offseason they can have. And I think that's the problem. People associate wins with big names, and that's not the case. Well, we've learned that over the last couple of years. The Angels need to get whoever's going to be best for them, not whoever's going to be best for, the offseason tabloids.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And that's, again, our problem right here. That's Artie Moreno. He's got to lay off the name thing, because I think for years, if you know your football, being a Broncos fan back in the day, Al Davis would go for names. Jerry Jones did the same thing, and those guys have in common that they're very hands-on owners. They want to be a part of every decision, no matter how big, no matter how small. I never thought I'd be talking about an Angels owner being like Artie Moreno, where he has to be in the know about everything. So, yeah. Well, you got anything else on this one, man, about as far as the series, the upcoming one with Chicago? Because I know you touched on it that we really don't have any pitching matchups for that one.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I don't see a situation where we're going to win that series. I sure hope so, but I mean, we're going to be overmatched. I'm hoping our boy Packy can put up a fight tomorrow and prove, like, hey, maybe he can once again be that consideration next year for come spring training.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're all cheering for Packy. Like you said, we have a soft spot in our hearts for him. So, hopefully he can at least perform tomorrow. He's 0-1 with the 2.57 ERA. It's not bad. Definitely not bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's faced some good teams. I mean, he faced the Padres. He's about to face the White Sox.
He pitched a little bit against the Dodgers. I'd like to get him on in the offseason if we can. If we could pull him again to maybe just see how he felt about pitching in those big situations and, and getting his feet wet. So, so maybe we can arrange that for him. But yeah, Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we got a lot going on for the off season and everything. Anything you want to plug or talk about before we get out of here?
Make sure to buy the merch on Redbubble. A lot of new merch that just dropped. Some Recall Artie Moreno merchandise. Obviously, a spinoff as to this saga of stuff happening in California, and regardless of what side of the spectrum you're on for all that, this is just kind of a fun way to tie it to Angels baseball. There's a lot of Angels fans who are angry about Artie Moreno, so our boy Randy decided he tried to make a joke with it, and then he posted it, and people were like, "Oh, well, this is hilarious." And we thought to ourselves, "Hey, maybe we should sell this." Obviously, we're still putting the money from our merchandise sales to various things. We don't get any of the profit. None of us are profiting from the show. Actually, I can guarantee you that we've all lost a lot of money from doing the show, but we love doing it.
That is a fact. That is a fact.
Yeah.
We are not in the black. Let's just say we're definitely in the red line right now. So
Very red, very red. It's not even like close.
yeah, exactly. Maybe one day that'll change, but for right now, yeah, we're doing this for the fans. That's for definitely. We're on a donation basis out of our pockets as well. So
Yeah, exactly. So we're not only be asking for donations out of you guys, we're asking for donations out of us. I mean, we got a lot of generous support from the 66ers food catering event.
mhm.
But I mean, we still paid almost half of that out of all of our pockets, which is fine. We've got no problem doing that. That's obviously something we volunteered for. Todd and I have already started talking about what our next projects are going to be. So, hopefully during the holidays, we're going to do something. I know we're planning that charity softball game with Rocks in the outfield in January. So when the details on that come out, we'll go ahead and let all you guys know. We want to get some of the fans involved to play on our team. I feel like that'd be a lot of fun.
I agree.
We're going to Todd a pimp home run.
There you go. I'm a bat flip like crazy.
There you go.
Whether I strike
He's going
out
to come
or
out to pitch. We're going to send Papa Fox to pitch, so we're going to high five like the game was over, like at 8th.
I don't know if I can get him out there, man. I'd like to have him pinch hit at least, but he's damn near pushing 80. He played with us till he was 65, so we'll have to see.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
But
one at bat only.
Yeah, or I could get him on as a bench coach. That'd be cool.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah. All right. So for Halos in the Infield podcast, check us out on YouTube. Check us out at any of the content. You could find us by just Googling us for the podcast form, or you can go to www.halosintheinfield.com to find everything there. So yeah, this has been another episode of Halos in the Infield podcast with your host Todd Fox and
Fernando Mendez. Viva Los Angelitos.
Viva Los Angelitos indeed.
Ooh, butchered it.
I sure did.